Hello and welcome back to Mac at the Movies. This week I'll be reviewing for you the film The Drama. This was released April 3rd, 2026 by A24 and directed by Christopher Borle, who had also directed films such as Dream Scenario, Ear spelled EER, and Sick of Myself. This film stars Zendaya as Emma, Robert Pattinson as Charlie, Alana Haim as Rachel, and Mamoudou Athli, who plays Mike. In the film, Mike and Rachel are married. They are a couple. They are the best man and the maid of honor for Emma and Charlie for their wedding. This film follows the characters of Emma and Charlie as they are moving closer to their wedding. They're having to work with setting up the DJ, getting the flowers arranged, everything worked out there, catering, the photographers, everything that goes on to putting together a wedding. But this sort of kind of takes off while they are working to get everything nailed down with the caterers, what they're going to have for food, what the wines are going to be, the different pairings, everything like that. Trying to get everything worked out, doing all the different taste tests of the cakes, the desserts, the dinners, everything like that. And this is sort of where everything takes a weird left turn. Up to this point, you get Emma, you get Charlie, you see that they're in a wonderful, loving relationship. You see how they meet at a coffee shop and this weird cheesy thing that happened because Charlie didn't know that Emma was deaf in one ear, and so there's this sort of like second chance at a meat sweet or whatever that's called, just a meet out in the wild there, and a meet cute, that's what it's called. But you get the story up until this point, and you see that Charlie and Emma are great together. Charlie is just a wonderful man that has a wonderful job. He's great and kind. Emma's very empathetic. Again, very loving, very kind, very wonderful souls getting together there. But while they're working everything out with the caterer and having their dinner, Rachel sort of spills the beans a little bit on a story about Mike that they call the dog story. And this is where spoilers are going to sort of come into play here. I'll put it in the description or in the title, spoilers, because I will be just talking about anything and everything in this film. But Mike and Rachel, before they had gotten married, said that they were going to have a, let's tell our secrets sort of, what's the worst thing you've ever done back and forth, which is, I don't know. I've had one of those conversations before, and I don't know. I've never asked what's the worst thing you've ever done. It's always been asked of me. And then we kind of go back and forth, and I feel like you get kind of like a lighter story from the other side. Like, oh, I did some bad things, but not as bad as what you did. And, I don't know. I always think it's weird whenever, I start in a relationship or at that point in the relationship and they want to know, okay, you're not like a serial killer, are you? I'll ask what the worst thing you've ever done was. And if I think it would lead to you being a person that would kill me in my sleep, hey, this is the last time we have to see each other, right? So it's always a weird thing. But Rachel and Mike had that weird question pop up, and they weren't supposed to tell anybody about it. That it was just supposed to be a secret between the two of them. And so everyone sort of agreed, if everyone at the table said what the worst thing they've done was, everybody would go along with that. Mike's story he had was the dog story. Charlie was, his immediate thought was like, what did you do? Did you have sex with a dog? What happened here? And they were like, no, it's nothing like that. Not anything that bad. I just used my ex-girlfriend as a human shield while a angry dog attacked us. And he was like, oh, okay, it's not that bad, huh? One of those things. So he has Rachel tell her story, which she tries to make less than. And then gets pushed to tell the whole story about how she locked a special needs kid in a closet at what could only be described as a drug den, just an old abandoned trailer where vagrants just kind of hang out and do whatever. And she got kind of scared that he was freaking out in this closet she locked him in, that she just left. And she was like, yeah, I went home, I went to bed, and the next day they were like, have you seen, this missing kid? And she wasn't concerned because they found him, no big deal, life goes on. Charlie didn't really have a story, so I believe he just made something up about online bullying. But then it gets to Emma. They basically say, okay, Charlie, you've never done anything wrong beyond stealing a pack of gum from a grocery store or something like that. So, like, Emma, what's your story? And this is where the film gets interesting because it really makes you think, like, what would you do in this situation? Because nothing happened. Nothing bad actually happened. But the intention of what was supposed to happen is so far gone in the realm of terrible that it makes you wonder, like, what this person's thinking, I guess, on a daily basis. But Emma's story is about orchestrating a school shooting. She orchestrated a school shooting up to fruition, and then didn't do it. Didn't complete the task. Unfortunately, or I guess in some cases, as unfortunately fortunate as this is, another mass shooting took place at a mall, and a kid they knew died in the process. And so that sort of sparked this open conversation amongst students, and to talk about feelings and everything just about what had happened. That in that process, she met some people who were like gun right activists. Like, we need to do something about this because people are shooting up schools, people are shooting up malls. What are we going to do? And for the first time, she started to find friends. Where before she was constantly being picked on or bullied, didn't have any friends. One person who she did know died in a car accident, but they weren't really friends. They were just sort of, two people that knew each other, sort of acquaintances, if you will. But it was interesting for Emma to tell this story, to be as open and vulnerable, to say, hey, this is what I did, but I didn't do it to completion. But she still got the reaction as though she were planning it out last week. This had happened, say, 10, 15 years prior to the events of this film, that she tells the story. And Rachel absolutely flips. She's like, my cousin was in a school shooting. She's in a wheelchair now. Like, how absolute dare you have these thoughts and these feelings that you were bullied as a child, but then found friendship. And you still put together up to bringing a gun to school and killing people. Like you went through the entire process of putting this together. And how absolute dare you. But nobody knew until that very moment that she had ever done that. it's kind of interesting the change that these friends had, these couples had, when that information came out. And the rest of the film is basically trying to put out the fire that was that evening. Emma and Charlie, they never really melded well after that night. There was this constant fear that Charlie had that if Emma got mad about something, that's just one moment away for her getting a gun and ending it for whoever pissed her off. And so he's got concerns like, who's this woman that I'm marrying? The empathetic, sweet, wonderful person who I thought I knew once orchestrated a plan to kill people. And even though she didn't do it, she almost did. She could have done it. So I found it interesting. This movie was just a really good a really good talk piece on what would you do if somebody came to you and said, 15 years ago, I thought about doing this absolutely heinous act, but at the last minute I said, I'm not going to do it. I found something better, and I found something that makes me happy in life. And so I'm not going to do that. And then 15 years had since gone. And now she's having to reap this punishment for something she's never done. And, what about this is going to start crumbling down around her life? Rachel wants almost nothing to do with her. Because of this weird fallout, Emma starts working against Rachel in things that she had previously promised Rachel to help her with. And that just makes things worse. Mike talks to Charlie about ending the marriage. Don't go through with it. We didn't know who this person was. We thought she was a nice, sweet so-and-so. But then it comes down to that conversation, you could be at a grocery store and there could be 9 people in that store who have thought one day after being bullied in school that they were just going to let it rip, but didn't. So are they a bad person? They had a bad day, they had a bad thought, but does that thought determine how we see all the actions, everything that they've done? That was amazing and wonderful up to this point because they had an idea that they didn't follow through with. They went far, but they didn't follow through with. So what do you do? I mean, it definitely comes down to, do I even know this person? I know whenever these conversations come up, what's the worst thing that you've ever done? It's, again, to me, it's never a conversation that I enjoy having because I've never really done anything so bad to the point where someone's going to be like, who even are you? When I was in high school, I wrecked a car, or I one time I gave somebody a ride I shouldn't have given a ride to, and next thing I know, cops are everywhere. I didn't do that again, but that doesn't mean that because I don't know, somebody's done something that you know how many cars I've almost wrecked. You know how many people I've given rides to. People that I know who might not have all been there. I remember working at a grocery store, and I gave a ride to somebody who was having what was practically a nervous breakdown. I gave her a ride home and made sure I watched her get all the way in before leaving. But I don't know what she had done up to that point. There were stories that I was told a little bit about her background after I returned from taking her, which if something would have happened, could have made me an accomplice to something. And I'm glad it didn't. Because, frankly, nobody needs that in their life. But, this was somebody had an idea and they kind of went through it. And, what's the worst thing you've ever done? You had an idea. Is that what we're supposed to take away from that? That even an idea can be the worst thing you've ever done? Granted, I think I'm being a little light on that because, again, in the story, she kind of, came all the way through to even making the manifesto and giving a reason why she did that. But once everything kind of fell apart, it all goes away. But again, it still kind of leaves you wondering. Like, I want to ask, a couple of my friends, like, kind of tell them, like, I had this idea and talk about the story that Emma had and see how they would react to a hypothetical story from a movie. So, get their kind of ideas about that. People who hadn't seen the movie. I don't want the idea to kind of, like, I want to know what someone's going to think. I don't want to know what somebody would think if this hypothetical situation happened in a movie. Because now we're just talking, well, I know you and you would never do something like that. But then that goes back to sort of the point of the movie. I digress. I'm going into circles with this. But we eventually get to the wedding, and everything sort of comes crashing down. In between Emma's story and the wedding, all matter of things happen. Charlie ends up in a fit of nervousness, I think more than anything, and fear, kisses another woman, and they start the act of taking it home, if you will, right there in the office. And it all stops before anything happens. Which, again, goes back to that whole... I mean, granted, he kissed her. In Emma's story, she put together an entire plan to kill a school of people. But nothing ever led to the end result. And so when Emma finds out, she sort of goes a bit ballistic on Charlie. They take it back to the wedding, and one thing sort of leads to another. This woman's boyfriend finds out, and a fight ensues, and sort of ends the wedding. Charlie goes back home looking for Emma, can't find her, and ends up going to this diner that they agreed to go to after their wedding, sort of like a post-Oscars win victory, going to In-N-Out. They decided after their wedding that they were going to go to this diner and get burgers. And they meet there and have sort of a third meet cute moment. But yeah, I think I more or less told you the entire movie. Definitely, again, an interesting think piece, an interesting story, and I highly suggest checking it out. I really liked it. I gave it a solid 4 stars out of 5. And I think there were just a few things that kind of pulled me back from giving it that full-on 5 stars. I'm not the biggest fan of Elena Haim. I've seen her in a couple of things, most notably Licorice Pizza, and I've never been a fan. Sort of same with the music. I've never been a fan of the band Haim, and I listen to a lot, but I've just never really gotten into it. Sort of like the, I don't know, maybe it feels like to me being sort of a sister's version of Dave Matthews Band, I guess. I don't know. I'm probably way off in that. I'm probably comparing the two because I'm not a fan of Dave Matthews Band, although I do appreciate his acting. I do enjoy his acting anytime I see it. But with her, I'm just not a big fan, and so I think it sort of took me out. Especially a lot of her spiteful acting, that she just, why would she commit to continuing through with the wedding and everything else, even if she was going to be just mean, rude, spiteful about everything. And I mean, I guess she played that well. I can't take that away. She played it well if that was her goal. I didn't care for it. I didn't care for the character. I felt like everybody else did a great job. But, maybe I just haven't seen a movie yet of hers that I've gone, that's an excellent role. I hope to one day. I do. Because, I don't want to have a negative thought here on an actress or an actor just because of, I don't know, whatever. But I do hope that she's in a movie that I can just enjoy one day. Not that I didn't enjoy this, because I did. I enjoyed it a lot. But I feel like between her and a lot of vomiting, it seemed like an overuse of vomit in this film. But I'm sure if your nerves are all bundled up in your stomach, you're bound to let your lunch loose. So, I'm sure if I wound up in a nervous moment like that, then yeah. But I'm gonna get out of here before I start rambling on for another 22 minutes. So I really like the movie. Definitely suggest checking it out. And if you saw it, comments below. What did you think about it? Did you love it or did you hate it? What's your opinion of it? I definitely know I was talking with my friend Christy, and she is also not a fan of what she calls the licorice pizza girl. So she didn't know that she was in a band or anything like that with her sisters and like a family band or anything like that. So, but yeah, again, great movie. I definitely say check it out. And it's definitely one that'll get you want to talk about it more. I definitely want to rewatch it. I really liked it, and I feel like it could use multiple watches. Not that the story doesn't pull you back in to try and figure something else out, but it was just good. It was just really good. So I definitely say check it out. But before, again, I ramble for another 22 minutes, I'm going to get out of here. So, again, thank you for stopping by, and I will see you next time. Bye.